Ladies and gentlemen, buckle up, because today at Starbase, SpaceX just fired up Starship Flight 11's upper stage, Ship 38, in a crucial static fire test. This is not just another hot staging rehearsal. This is the test that decides whether Flight 11 rolls forward to launch in the coming weeks. Now, if you've been following along, you know Flight 11 is part of the Block 2 configuration, the latest and most advanced Starship design to date. And today, with those 6 Raptor engines roaring to life for around 8 seconds, SpaceX took one step closer to making full reuse of the largest rocket in history. So, in this video, we'll break down exactly what happened in today's test, why it matters so much, what challenges SpaceX had to overcome, and what comes next as we count down to Flight 11. Today's event was a static fire test of Ship 38 stacked on Booster 15. This involved 6 Raptor engines, 3 optimized for sea level, and 3 vacuum Raptors, all ignited while the vehicle was firmly clamped to the orbital launch mount. Now, from the outside, static fires might just look like a quick burst of fire and smoke, but the data collected here is immense. Sensors are monitoring pressure, thrust balance across engines, turbopump performance, thermal response in the heat shield area, and even how the ground systems hold up under the stress. This static fire lasted about 8 seconds, long enough for engineers to confirm ignition stability, chamber pressures, and thermal stability. And critically, today's run followed a couple of aborted attempts in recent weeks, where fueling issues forced SpaceX to scrub. Getting a full duration burn today was exactly what the program needed. A static fire is essentially a dress rehearsal for launch day. Imagine you're about to run the Indy 500. You don't just start the car at the starting line and hope for the best. You take it to the garage, rev the engine, check every system under load. That's what SpaceX did today. It tells them, do the engines ignite simultaneously? Are the methane and liquid oxygen flow rates stable? Is the vehicle vibrating within expected ranges? Are the engines aligned correctly to avoid thrust imbalance at liftoff? And remember, this isn't just about the ship. The orbital launch mount and ground support equipment are also tested here. If a valve sticks or a cryo line leaks, better to find out now than with 4,600 tons of propellant on board during launch. Now, let's talk about the road here. Flight 11 stack has had its share of challenges. We saw aborted static fire attempts earlier this month. Those were triggered during cryogenic propellant loading, not unusual when you're dealing with methane at minus 183 degrees Celsius and oxygen at minus 219 degrees Celsius. Sensors have to agree, valves need to cycle properly, and thermal shock can stress plumbing. Ship 38 also went through extensive cryogenic proof testing to validate its stainless steel tanks. Plus, Raptor engines themselves are always evolving. Any new batch needs to be test-fired to make sure ignition transients are smooth, no hard starts, no combustion instability. SpaceX also used today to validate new pad upgrades. At Macy's and at the orbital pad, they've been upgrading deluge systems, reinforcing prop lines, and tweaking hold-down clamps. All of that pays off when you see a clean, coordinated ignition sequence like today. So why all the hype around Flight 11? Because this is the final Block 2 flight test before moving on to even more advanced variants. Block 2 has incremental but critical upgrades, stronger heat shield tiles, improved hot staging ring, refinements and tank insulation, and reliability tweaks learned from Flights 7, 8, 9, and 10. Flight 11 is the culmination of all those lessons. If Ship 38 performs well, it validates the Block 2 design as stable enough to hand off to Block 3 and eventually Block 4, the operational vehicles meant for Starlink deployment, lunar landers, and eventually Mars cargo. This is the moment SpaceX proves not only can Starship survive the climb to orbit, but it can also re-enter and recover reliably with fewer issues than the early prototypes. With today's static fire in the books, what happens now? First, engineers will pore over terabytes of data: chamber pressures, thrust vector control responses, thermal camera footage of the heat shield, and more. Next, any anomalies are fixed, and if everything looks nominal, Ship 38 will get the green light for launch stacking. Then we'll see wet dress rehearsals, full fueling countdowns without ignition to make sure everything flows on launch day. Finally, FAA and other regulatory approvals will finalize the window. Given how smooth today went, Flight 11 could be on the pad within weeks, possibly in October if weather and logistics align. Every successful static fire builds confidence not just in the Starship program, but in the entire vision of making humanity multi-planetary. Today's fireball wasn't just a test, it was proof that the lessons of Flight 10, from heat shield losses to re-entry dynamics, are being integrated and improved. It also shows how quickly SpaceX iterates. Remember, Falcon 9 went from its first orbital flight to reliable reuse in just a handful of years. Starship is moving even faster, despite being orders of magnitude more ambitious. So that's today's big milestone: a successful static fire for Starship Flight 11. If everything holds, the next time we see the stack roar, it'll be on its way to orbit. I'll be covering every step, from rollout to launch day to splashdown. So make sure you like, subscribe, and ring that bell so you don't miss the action. And let me know in the comments, what are you most excited for in Flight 11? The booster recovery attempt, the heat shield validation, or maybe just the sheer spectacle of the world's most powerful